What up, nerds? My name is Leslie Smith. Welcome to another weekly reading wrap-up here on the Nerdy Narrative, where I talk about all of the things that I read during the week, what I'm still working on, and what I plan to get into next. Before we get into the books, I have a couple of random announcements. I normally upload on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Next week it's going to be Monday, Tuesday, Friday because I am part of an online blog tour for The Last Blade Priest by Will Wiles. I have a review that's going to go up on Tuesday instead of Wednesday. The other channel related announcement I wanted to make you aware of is I am currently working on my second episode of the author series that I started called Why My Story Matters. I recently called up to author John Durjan to talk with him about his debut release, The Cursed Among Us, and what it was about that story that mattered to him. I know a lot of you that watch the channel have picked that book up, so if you've read it and you're curious to know the answer to that question yourself, keep your eyes peeled for that video. And if you haven't read it, don't worry, I'll include a brief non-spoiler summary of what the book is about before we get into that discussion with the author. All right, housekeeping over, let's talk about what I read this week. Let's start with Hilda Hilst, With My Dog Eyes. This is the first time I've read anything by this author. I did check with Una, who I buddy read this with, and asked if this was her typical writing style, because if it is, I'm not interested in reading anything else by her. It was completely disjointed, it was fragmented, the grammar was either overused or not used at all, and I was just clueless as to what was going on. The premise of this book is about a professor who goes mad. And so if you look at it through the lens of he is the narrator, perhaps this was supposed to be him writing the story. She illustrated that very well, except there was no progression. The story picks up with him already going off into the deep end, and it just was not an enjoyable read for me. I couldn't even rate it on Goodreads. I could not even write a written review other than did I just read. I only completed it because it was super short, and she is compared to Clarice Lispector, and I'm just not seeing it. But it is perhaps just this particular story she wrote in this style to illustrate this man going mad. So I'll put her on my short story list and see if she's got something out there available that I can read and just get a better sampling of her writing style. So let's talk about something I finished that I really enjoyed. That is The Empire of Gold by S.A. Chakraborty. I loved this book. I sort of got what I wanted. I do not like the price that I had to pay to get it. It had a very satisfying, heartwarming ending. It's not what I expected. It made sense, and I am extremely happy with what happened. I cannot wait to read this series again, knowing what happened, because part of the joy of a reread to me is when I do know the ending, I can enjoy certain parts of the story better, if that makes sense. Like, there was so much I wanted to happen in this book from reading the previous two that I was kind of rushing along trying to see if I was going to get it. So now that I know the outcome of everything, I can go back and just enjoy everything else that happens. I don't know if that makes any kind of sense. I can't really go into detail because it is the third book in a trilogy, and anything I say is going to spoil the previous two books for those of you who haven't read it, but I do highly recommend the series, which is hilarious because when I started the first book, I really thought I wasn't gonna like it, and I have grown to love this story so much. Now I'm gonna have to get my hands on the book of short stories and read those, and then I can go back and start planning my reread. The next book that I read and actually stayed up late last night to complete is called Midnight in the City of the Carrion Kid by James G. Carlson. So there's three main reasons I was interested in reading this story. The first reason being, I really love the cover. Second reason, there's mention of a talking cat in the book description. And the third reason is this one has been nominated for a Splatterpunk Award this year, which is actually taking place next month in Austin, Texas. Now, if you're wondering what a Splatterpunk Award is, those are awards that are given out each year to honor superior achievement in the subgenres of splatterpunk and extreme horror. So now that you know my reasons for picking it up, you're probably wondering, did it deliver? Well, of course, on the cover, nothing's going to change there. I love that cover. The talking cat. There was not as much of the talking cat as I would have liked, but the story was phenomenal. I could have actually done without a talking cat whatsoever. This story was so much more than what the book description tells you. And I'm not saying that the book description wasn't accurate. It was completely accurate, but it was so much deeper than that description. So the description tells us this story is about the city that exists between life and death. It's this wondrous, beautiful place where your soul awaits to know if you're going to return to the land of the living or if you're going to move forward. That's where our talking cats come in. They're the guides for the soul to help them move forward. It sounds beautiful, right? Well, it was until a child who was possessed by a demon, something happened to that child and the child's soul came to the in-between. The demon was so enmeshed and joined with this child that it came with the soul to the in-between and has taken over and has just destroyed the city. The description also mentions our main character, Alistair, and his arrival into the in-between. He joins up with another group who is already there, and they are going to attempt to restore the light and balance to the in-between. But what the description does not do justice is the character development of our main character, Alistair. I'm torn because I want to tell you what brought Alistair to the in-between and what he was working through and what he experienced and just what he went through and how that affected him over the course of the story. I want to tell you, but then on the other side of it, I think it would spoil and give away too much, but it won't give away the beauty of just what transpired in this person's soul. And I wasn't ready for it to be over. Like I said, I stayed up late to finish it. I have just been so fortunate to read some books lately that have had me wanting to stay up late to read them. I just don't want to put them down. It was just wonderfully written. The story was executed perfectly. It was just as long as it needed to be. And do I think this deserves a Splatterpunk Award? I absolutely do. I can't wait for August to find out if this one's gonna pull out a win. I really hope it does. And then as far as short stuff, I read my Oh It's Naked. I took the dust jacket off because I'm working on reading it. But I read the next essay in We Tell Ourselves Stories in Order to Live. It's a nonfiction essay collection by Joan Didion. The essay we read for the month of June was called On Self-Respect. Very interesting. What she did with this essay is she defined the difference between self-respect and self-esteem and the definition of character and how those relate to each other. It was just one of those that I loved, I really resonated with. Joan Didion is one that for the most part she hits. There have been a few essays I've read in this collection that I was like, what in the world is she going for here? I just didn't get it. Luckily, those have been very few and far between. For the most part, I've really enjoyed them. I've learned something from her. I've seen a different life experience. It's definitely a worthwhile collection to pick up and read. The other collection that I've worked on and read from is You Don't Know Us Negroes by Zora Neale Hurston, another nonfiction essay collection, and I have had a ball. I got 2 essays read out of this one. One is What White Publishers Won't Publish, and the other was an in-depth essay about Howard University and some issues that it went through back when Zora was a student there. Another collection that I would highly recommend, worthwhile reading. It's educational, it's enriching, it's enlightening. I've really enjoyed it. And then the third collection that I started and I'm working on is Corpse Honey by Michael J. Pico. And I hope I am pronouncing the last name correctly. And I have to say, this is a case where the Goodreads ratings and reviews are so off. And I'm just wondering if those people didn't realize what they were getting. Maybe they didn't know that this was a horror story collection, speculative fiction. I mean, the cover should tell you that, but everything they wrote in their reviews don't match the experience I'm having with this collection. I read a ton of horror. I read a ton of short story collections, anthologies. I would say I'm pretty experienced in knowing what a good, well-written short story is for horror, and this collection stands up at the top with the best of them. I'm loving the writing style, and the writing style is not the same for each story. it's like the author tailors the writing style around the theme of the story. The first one was about a vampire, an old vampire, and just how long that life is and the loneliness of it. The writing style matched. It was very elegant and old-fashioned feeling, but in the pretty way and not the overly English way like Dracula is written. It was just beautiful. The next one is a child, a teenager, and he is our narrator, and it's written from his perspective. And I just mean that it was from a child's perspective, not that it was written childishly. And I'm planning to do a full dedicated review on this collection to try and repair the damage that these low ratings have obviously done. I would say I'm about halfway through this collection. I'm looking forward to getting it finished over the next week and then telling you all about how that collection rates overall. And then hopefully some of you horror fans out there will read it, help me get those ratings and reviews up where they should be for this author. So that takes care of everything that I read and the collections I'm still working on. What am I going to read next? Well, as soon as I get done filming for you guys today, I plan to start The Warrior by Stephen Aryan. This is the sequel to The Coward, the Quest for Heroes trilogy. This book will be out by Angry Robot Books on August the 9th. And there is something special that I'm going to do for this one. And I just realized this morning when I was like, what am I going to read next? Because I literally stayed up late to finish Midnight in the City of Carrion Kid. And so I haven't had a chance to start anything new. So I was thinking about this morning. I'm like, well, what am I going to tell folks I'm going to start next? And I was like, oh, I have something I'm filming for this duology that's going to be happening very soon. So that means I need to get this one read so I can be prepared once I finish The Warrior, because that one, if it's anything like The Coward, I'll have it done in a couple of days. Then I will be starting Luke Arnold's The Last Mile in Sunder City. I'm actually going to buddy read this with my friend Gail. She's already started, so I'm hoping I can get The Warrior taken care of quick, fast, and in a hurry so I can join her before she finishes this one. I'm really excited for this series. It sounds really amazing. And while we're talking urban fantasy, I'll also probably, by the time I talk to you next, we'll have listened to The Law by Jim Butcher. That is a novella out in the Dresden Files universe that came out only on audio, but I think there's going to be books eventually. I did pre-order that one, so I'm probably going to squeeze that one in sometime before I talk to you guys next. And I will wrap it up there, guys. That's everything I read, what I'm still reading, what I plan to read next. I hope you guys had a fantastic week. I hope you're looking forward to another wonderful weekend this weekend as well. Let me know what you're planning to read this weekend down in the comments below, and I will see you in the next one.